Okay, and let's just say it's worth 500 grand. So Billy, I can close in 60 days and pay you 500 grand. But Billy, if you give me the time and you allow me to spend the energy and money needed to get your land approved for development, I'll pay you the 2.5 million. What's up, everyone? Hey, welcome to the live show. That's right, live. So I'm probably not going to be quite as polished today, but that's okay. I want to remind everybody that's joining us today, drop in the comments in the chat, where are you from? We want to see where everyone's visiting us from. See if maybe you live in an area where we're doing deals at Allied Development. So do me a favor, drop in the chat where you're from. And today we're going to talk. Well, let me give you a lay of the land first. I'm going to share a few things. I'm going to answer a few questions that the team has found out there on the wild, wild web, as far as questions that have being asked that aren't necessarily getting answers to. And then from there, we're going to get into live Q&A where y'all can post your questions and we're just going to answer them live, and we're going to roll with it. So also, as we've done on the last previous live shows, hang on till the end. I'm going to provide you a code, I guess, to put into the chat. And based upon you putting that code into the chat, I'm going to send you a free gift. So hang on me through the end. Probably the most fun is the live Q&A that we'll do at the end. And then from there, I'll get you a free gift. Also, as we're going through the show today, if I pique your curiosity, if you're like, man, I'm really interested, I want to learn more about this guy or his business model or his company, do this at any time. You can put in the chat LD or the DM, or just in the chat, just for clarity. In the comments. Okay, so in the comments, just put LDP. Yeah. So you can either DM me on social, or you can just put in the chat LDP, and we'll send you some additional information. We'll just call it free training, and you'll learn that much more about our model. All right. So with that said, first thing we're going to do is we actually have a part of the live show today. I believe we're on Facebook, Instagram, but we're also live today in our community as well. So we have a community at our education company, and we're actually live in the community as well. So anybody in the community that's joining, thanks for our first test of going live inside the community. But I wanted to shout out a couple people that are in the community. First thing I want to shout out is John Fellman. Kind of a highlight. This is a really cool story, by the way. John is working on an 83-acre site. 98% of the land is wetlands. Originally valued the land at 330 grand. I just want to stop here for a second. The fact that, John, you saw a piece that was majority unusable and chose to still pursue it for what was usable is awesome, because in all reality, and this was a broker's deal, by the way, a real estate agent had this deal. It was a pocket listing, and nobody wanted to touch it. Well, no one wanted to touch it because all they saw was just complete unusable land. So very awesome that you chose to take a deal that had some hair on it and try to do something with it. I can tell you that I would say more than half of the deals at Allied Development have hair on them. But guess how you bring the most value? You bring the most value by tackling the deals that do have challenges. Does that make sense? That's how you can bring the most value to everybody involved, right? The landowner, the community, bring value to the land. So I just think that's absolutely awesome. And so right now he's negotiating a deal right now, John is, with one of the large national publicly traded home builders. And it says here for around 43 million, so or 8 figures. So the fact that you took a piece that was beyond challenging and now you're in negotiations with one of the largest publicly traded home builders in the country, just hat off to you. Extremely awesome. And I'm thankful for how we've been a part of your education to where you even saw that as potential or opportunity. Awesome, John. Next is Helen. I don't even know how to say Helen's last name. I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to say it's Helen Marie T. Okay, I'm just going to say your last name is T. By the way, I'm a horrible reader. I bet you every one of you can read better than me. But anyways, let's see what she did. So she looks like she's getting rolling here, which is cool, because we can educate you all you want, but it's all about your inputs, right? About what are the actions you're putting in, right? You can't expect an outcome without an input first, right? And numerous inputs. So I'm just going to read some of the inputs that you listed off here. You set up a batch dialer, right? You conducted permit research. You identified active developers, builders in a county. You built a target list of 5 builders or developers you're going to go after as far as potential clients of yours, right? Or who you can sell to. Use ChatGPT, love you using AI, to track down where D.R. Horton and others were pulling permits. Like, we have a software we use to do that. But it's a paid software. So the fact that you did that through ChatGPT, awesome. Like, AI, if you're not embracing AI, I promise you, you're falling behind. And so, like, we're all in on AI in all of our companies. So very cool. And then now you're ready to start calling. All right. So now you're ready to start calling. Here's where most people fall flat on their face, because very few people like to cold call. Okay. You're a unique breed if you like to cold call. And so, great job on all that research. Keep calling, keep dialing, right? They say no, not interested. Keep dialing, keep dialing. And by the way, that party that say no, not interested, you know what you need to do? You need to set up a follow-up alert of when you're going to follow up with them again, say in 90 days, right? So excited to hear about how you do on your calling. I'm not going to hold you to this, okay? But our callers, on average, do at least 100 calls a day, okay? So I'm not saying you need to make 100 calls a day, but I'm just giving you an idea. So I wouldn't want you to only make 2 or 3 a day. I want you to put in more reps than that, because it will pay off, okay? All right, give you actually a stat there really quick. So we bring in properties every month that are leads for us, all right? And then we start cold calling, really mainly cold calling right now, because right now we shut down our direct mail campaign as far as sending out snail mail to people. We will bring it back, but to be frank, it was weak and it needed to be revamped. So our main way of marketing right now is actually cold calling to landowners. And our goal is about 5% of the leads we bring into our system raise their hand, they're interested in selling. So you might hit a higher percentage than that. You probably will. I hope you do. But based upon the mass volume we do, and all of our callers are actually international VAs, virtual assistants, is that our goal is about a 5% on average on hand raise, okay? All right, so I'm gonna get to some questions the team found online. And by the way, those of you that are from the community, those of you that are Dirt Dog Pack members, right? Because we call ourselves a bunch of dirt dogs. I just want to thank you for your support. I want to thank you for your loyalty. I want to thank you for allowing us to be a part of your journey. So, but great job on those couple of shout outs that I was able to share today. But question 1, what builders think when evaluating entitled lots? That's the question. So I'm going to try to guess at what exactly you're asking, okay? But first, let me say, most of our clients would much prefer to evaluate entitled lots than have to deal with evaluating the raw land, because they want to get to construction as quick as possible, because at the end of the day, they're construction companies. And so they love the fact, and they see a ton of value in the fact that we handle the entitlements for them. So when I'm going to sell a deal to a builder and they're evaluating entitled lots, I will tell you the bigger clients that I sell to, this is something that's very, very key for you to understand, is if you're doing a smaller dealer, let's start there, and you're going to sell it to a local builder, more than likely that builder is going to want to make a certain amount of money developing the land, doing all the horizontal construction, putting in all the infrastructure, the utilities, the streets, and all that. they're going to want to make a certain margin or profit on that. And then they're going to look at their home building profit as something different. Okay? But the thing is that these builders in America today, if you aren't willing to develop the land, okay, put in all the utilities and streets in order to have lots to build homes on, mark my words, you're going to have a hard time growing or scaling your company. More and more home builders are willing to develop the land to have the finished lots to then build homes on, okay? But understand the locals, smaller home builders, they're more than likely going to try to make a margin on that horizontal, that land development, and then they're going to try to make their normal margin on home building. The bigger clients, like the clients I deal with and that you could deal with too, because it's all about project size, and I've learned the bigger projects are no more work than the smaller projects, is that they don't really look at, okay, how much am I going to make developing the land? How much am I going to make home building? They look at it as all one thing. It's all one construction project from beginning to end, and they're looking at margin and they're looking at IRR a lot of times. Those are their two thresholds, okay? Is margin, what are they going to make margin-wise on that whole project, the land development and the home building combined? What margin are they going to hit? And two is what's their IRR, the internal rate of return on their money, okay, over the course of that project. And typical, if I should say an average or typical that I hear, is that they're trying to hit like a, low 20s margin and IRR. A lot of times their margin and IRR are about a similar percentage, right? So they're trying to hit a 20% margin and a 20% IRR. They're trying to hit a 22% margin and a 22% IRR. That's what they're looking at, okay? That's what they've got to send to their committee. Their committee is going to look at what's the margin and what's the IRR, right? They're going to look at, in order to figure out their IRR or their margin, obviously they got to do market studies. They got to figure out what they're going to be able to sell homes for. They're going to look at what is the land cost to develop. They already know what their home building costs are, right? But they're going to look at what is that land cost to develop. They're going to look at can they sell homes for in that area. And then another key thing they're going to look at is absorption. So like I have a couple of projects right now that are bigger projects, like 500-600 lots. And absorption is the one that they're looking at very closely, is how long will it take them to get through all of those lots. And so because the longer that takes, okay, it doesn't necessarily hurt margin, but it can absolutely destroy the IRR, right? The internal rate of return, because IRR is based on time value of money, right? So it's what's your annualized return over the course of that project. And so just understand they're going to look at absorption very, very closely. All right? All right, cool. Let's keep going here. They want me to ask, who's watching? Type an R in the chat if you're a realtor, a W in the chat if you're a wholesaler, F in the chat if you're a fix and flipper. Give me an O in the chat if you don't fit into any of those buckets, right? And for the heck of it, because some of you aren't realtors or wholesalers or fix and flippers, but you still are very active in real estate. So just give me an A in the chat if you are active in real estate, but just with none of those models, just out of curiosity. So let's see, you guys give me some comments in the chat so I can see what you're currently doing in the business, if anything. And if you're not doing anything in real estate, that's okay too, right? I'm glad you're here. We got a W, we got an O, we got an O. We got Max was an O, we got Billy is an O, so other. I love other. I love other, and here's why. We have some amazing success stories at our education company that were other, meaning that they weren't in real estate, okay? And you know how fun it was to be a part of their journey and being a part of some dramatic change or growth in their lives. Like, it's been truly, truly fulfilling. I also find, and I'm not saying any of you are this way, but I also find some people that are in real estate. Have you ever heard the saying, you can't teach old dogs new tricks? So what happens is when there's no prior pre-programming, is that we feel like they're able to adapt or adopt our teachings sometimes easier. Does that make sense? But with that, Billy said, found you yesterday. Well, Billy, I'm glad you found me yesterday. One of my best friends, his name's Billy, and he's like he's 6'7", I think like 280 pounds, just jacked. And he's one of the funniest guys I know. And by the way, super successful. All right, cool. Let's just keep rolling. Common deal killers in the land development industry. So as you know, I've been a land developer for 23 years. I've done lots of land development where I've done all the construction, put in all the streets and the utilities and all of that. But today, most of our deals and where we bring the most value to our country and to the builders of America and to the landowners is we specialize in the entitlement part, okay, or phase of the land development industry, all right? Because most of the time, our clients, they do the actual land development construction, which it's a beautiful model that I'm not going to get into today that we've mastered or fine-tuned over the last 23 years. But it's a way we can bring tremendous value to the asset, to the land. We can increase its value tremendously without all the typical debt or risk that is related to the land development in general, okay, into that industry. So I don't think I'll get into too much of that today, but so what are common deal killers? Well, we have something in our education company, and we call it our buy box, right? And it's Allied Development, my development company's buy box that we teach our VestRight students about, okay? And part of the reason that too is because a lot of our VestRight students bring us deals because they want to partner with me or Allied Development, which is awesome, right? But we only partner with active students at VestRight, okay? So, and the reason for that, by the way, is we used to be willing to partner with anybody, and we got burnt out on it because if you weren't educated by our company, then more than likely you'd send in a bunch of garbage leads that would just take up my team's time. So we just shut it down. You can only partner with me now if you're an active VestRight student. So, and so it's important they know our buy box. And the way we do that is they can go find the lead, right? Get the landowner to raise their hand they're interested in selling. My team will negotiate the acquisition. My team will run the entitlements. We'll sell the deal, and we're going to capitalize all of the entitlement work, right? And so it's pretty cool. And then we cut our students in on the paydays. And so you can go out there on the wild web. There's success stories that have done exactly that, right? I'm thinking like Eric, I'm thinking of Charlie and some others where they got cut some substantial checks by us because we cut them in on the profit. But here nor there, the buy box, okay? The buy box, let's just start here. Someone finds a piece of land and it works. It checks all the boxes. It has development potential. But the problem is there's not a need, okay? There's no demand, okay? What we tried many years ago, and we don't try anymore, is to try to convince the builders to go to a new market. Try to convince the builder. You understand, my clients, these public companies, like they have a whole team full of people that all they do is market analysis and economics, okay? So what we've learned is to only go do deals where these builders are already active, okay? So that's a big deal killer, is if you're trying to open a new market, and that's very difficult to do, okay? So what is the supply versus the demand, okay? Is there a need, okay? 2 is there might be need, but then you gotta look at absorption, okay? The size of the project versus how many homes can realistically be sold in that project. Let's say you have a 500 lot deal like one of mine, and the absorption is 10. Realistically, you can sell, let's just say 10 a year, okay? All right? Well, the problem is that, what is that? That's a 50-year project? That doesn't work, right? The IRR is garbage, internal rate of return, okay? So 2 is absorption, all right? 3 is where a lot of times it's, let me just hit the 5 criteria of development potential really quick. It's zoned for what you want to do, or it can be rezoned for what you want to do, okay? 2 is it has access, public access, meaning you can get to the property. Can't develop it if you can't get to it. Has to be a public right-of-way. 3 is utilities. Does it have public utilities like sanitary sewer and water at the property or near the property? 4 is overlays. Is a lot of properties might look great, but they're unusable, or majority of the land is unusable. If we go back to, who was it? It was, you know, what John did there. Was it John? Yeah, it was John. Is what John did is he said 98% of the property was unusable, but the 2%, there was 2% that was, right? But at least he checked the overlays and saw what was usable and then built all his performance on that, okay? And then 5 and final is topography, which is going to bring up another thing that often kills deals, is topography. Is understand flat land is usually the cheapest to develop. And here's the thing. It's also the most valuable. It's less to develop, and it's usually the most valuable because the end homeowner, if their whole lot is usable, right, for them and their kids to run around or their dog or whatever, they usually will pay more than if their land is sloped, okay? And so downsloped property, okay? A lot of times you have development issues because of gravity. So like you might have to put in a lift station or something to pump the sanitary sewer up to the main trunk line. But the big one that we see a lot is upsloping property. And the challenge with land that has too much topography is it costs more to develop, and usually it sells for less, right? Meaning we can sell it for less. And so what sometimes people do is they don't actually truly figure out how much that land's going to cost to develop. And so when they go to sell it to the builder and the development costs are really dialed in, it just destroys the project, okay? So so those are just some ideas, some things that I can't remember what question I was on. What question was I on? I was on, oh, deal killers. Yeah, those are just a few things to wrap off to you as far as deal killers. There's many more, but that'll give you a good idea. All right. Wait a second here. Oh, yeah. He just added a question for me. My team did. Is, have you ever lost a deal to one of these? Give me a yes or no in the chat. So I just rattled off, what, 3 or 4 different things. Have you ever lost a deal to one of those things I just mentioned? Yes or no? Tell me in the chat. A yes or no. Have you ever lost a deal to one of those things I mentioned? Not seeing anything in the chat. I'm going to keep going. Unless I missed it. Okay, another question the team came across. Raw land versus unimproved versus entitled, okay? Explain the differences, I think is what the question is, all right? Let's just first start with unimproved land. Well, to be clear, raw land or entitled land can both be considered unimproved. I would just classify unimproved as mean that the land hasn't been developed yet. No construction has been done, all right? That would be unimproved. Raw land versus entitled land. Raw land is typically what we call the type of land we buy, okay? It's raw land that has, a light just went off. Raw land that has development potential, okay? Raw land could be whatever, right? It's a field. It is a, you know, it's a farm. It's an orchard. It's a forest. It's whatever it is, okay? It's just, And we technically call it raw land, even if there's like an existing house on it or whatever, right? Because we're 9 times out of 10, we're going to flatten the house. We're going to demo it, right? So, and then entitled land is simply we take that land, that raw land, and we get it approved for development. We go through this governmental approval process to get that land approved for development, okay? Hasn't been developed yet. It's just approved for development. And so that's really what entitlements is, right? Is getting it approved for development. So to be clear, even if it checks those 5 boxes of development potential, like sometimes people think, oh, it's zoned for development, so I can just go and develop it. That's just the farthest from the truth. You've got to go through that entitlement process first, okay? Which, by the way, is what we specialize in and is what we teach every day. And you going through that process of getting a piece of land entitled is where you bring substantial value, okay? That's where the value add business model comes from. So like there's different value add models out there in real estate, and some not so much, like wholesaling is not a value add business model because you don't do anything to increase the value of the asset. But we increase the value of the asset through getting the land entitled, getting it approved for development. Does that make sense? All right, cool. So let me ask you this. Was that, what I just explained to you, did that make any sense? Was that new to you? Had you ever heard that before? If you followed me for a long time, I guarantee you have. But was that new for you? Is there anything there that you just learned in that little spiel I just gave you real quick? Give me a yes or no in the chat. If that was new to you, yes or no. All right. Man, the chat's not very engaged. So I got a no from Christopher. All right, Christopher. So that wasn't new to you. That's good. Anybody? Chat's not very active today. What, we got a bunch of bots in here? Jordan said, yes, sir, that was new. Or you learned that there was something there that you learned. What else we got in the chat? Maybe I'll sit here and stare at the chat and not say anything else. See if these bots start active in the chat.
There's like a 20-second delay.
Oh, is there a 20-second delay? Well, that would be hard for me to stay engaged with the chat if there's a 20-second delay. I'm going to keep going. Is that normal, 20-second delay? How do you engage with the chat if it's a 20-second delay? Huh, that's weird. All right, question 4. I think this is more, it says, should I sell as is or entitled? Okay, so let's treat this way. Let's treat it this way. You're in my shoes and you're out wanting to buy people's land that's not for sale, okay? And a typical real estate transaction closes in, say, 30 or 60 days. After you get the agreement in place, it closes after 30 or 60 days, okay? And you know, the landowner, their aunt's a realtor, or their sister, or their daughter, or their neighbor, or whatever. And they go to their neighbor and they say, hey, this guy wants to buy my land, but he wants 18 months before he closes. And the uneducated realtor, which, by the way, 99% of realtors are uneducated in our space. Just let's make that really clear. I'm not putting you all down, okay? I says that I used to be a realtor many years ago. I used to own a real estate firm where I had a gazillion agents. I love realtors, but just most of them are not educated in the space. But little Miss Mary, the neighbor, says, well, no, they should close in 60 days. And so Billy, the landowner, comes back to me. He says, well, I talked to Mary, who's she's a real estate professional. She's a real estate agent. And she says you should close in 60 days. Well, Billy, man, that's awesome. Billy, let's just start off here. I'd be curious to know how many land development deals she's been a part of. And my guess would be 0. Okay. So she might know single family residential and selling homes well, but our space is unique. Okay. But here's what, Billy, let's do this, Billy. Billy, I'll close on your land in 60 days and I'll pay as is value. Whatever it's worth today. We can go get it appraised, do whatever, but I'll pay you. Okay, and let's just say it's worth 500 grand. So Billy, I can close in 60 days and pay you 500 grand. But Billy, if you give me the time and you allow me to spend the energy and money needed to get your land approved for development, I'll pay you, well, it's usually 5 to 10x. I can usually pay 5 to 10 times as is value. So let's just use 5 to be conservative. Or Billy, you can give me the 18 months and I'll pay you the 2.5 million. Okay. But Billy, you can't get the 2.5 million without the 18 months, right? That's how the industry works, because I can't pay you development values without getting the land actually approved for development. Okay. Because until it's approved for development, all we have is what's sitting here today. All right. That makes sense? And Billy, I look at it this way. I grew up in a small little town called Damascus. I think it got its first street signal when I was in high school. Like, I'm just a meat and potatoes guy. Here's the way I explain it to people. But Billy, if I'm going to pay for a diamond, call that development values, I got to make sure it's a diamond. And it's not a diamond until it actually gets approved for development. But I can tell you this, in 23 years, I've never had a landowner say, no, I'm not going to give you the time. They're willing to give the time because I'm willing to pay for the time, right? It's that I'm going to pay them the 5 to 10x, right? They're always willing to wait for the payday, except for one time. Some of you may have heard the story. It was about a year ago, that same situation. And she's like, no, it was like 300 grand and I'd pay her $1.3 million. And she chose to take the 300 grand and just blew up my whole track record. So one time in 23 years, I paid as is value versus closing after it was approved for development. And all it did, it worked for me and it worked for her, but what it did is it just added another $1 million to my bottom line, right? But what you can't do, and if you do this, I know you're uneducated, okay? Or can I say the word stupid, right? You're either uneducated or stupid, is if you pay development values and you close right away. That is just purely insane, right? And we can pick out the uneducated like that, okay? All right, let's keep rolling. All right, so they wanted me to hit, so I had this thing I call One Legacy. Okay, it's on my website. Actually, one of my guys right here is wearing one of our One Legacy hats. And it's One Legacy, okay? And what One Legacy is how many legacies do you have? You have one. You don't have two. You don't have three. You have one legacy, all right? And so every day of every moment of every day, we have decisions to make. Choices, right? And in all reality, every moment of every day is shaping our legacy. And so what I did is I took the word legacy and I broke it down to what legacy means to me. All right? So let's just start here. The L in legacy. Now, I'm not going to write this down because I'm going to draw something for you here in a second. The L stands for lasting faith. Right? And so I'm a man of faith. I love Jesus. And to me, like, faith is my number one pillar, right? Like, lasting faith. Okay? The E, and this is probably the pillar that I'm weak at. But it's, well, I'm going to say weakest at is E for exceptional relationships. Is what kind of relationships do you have in your life? Do you have really solid, exceptional relationships? This is a challenge for me because I'm not built, like, relational behaviors are not natural for me, okay? My wife flourishes at it. For me, not so much, but it's exceptional relationships, all right? The G is genuine impact. Like, what kind of impact are you really having in this world, right? with your family, with your kids, with your community, right? With the country, with the world. Like, what kind of impact are you having? Genuine impact, all right? The A, and this is probably my favorite pillar to talk about, is able finances. That's very specific. Able finances. You have the finances to live the life you want to live and to be giving in the way you want to give. I didn't say here, become a multimillionaire or become a billionaire. I chased all that in my 20s, and it was very, very empty, okay? But you have the able finances to do what it is you want to do, all right? Next is C, cherished experiences. Like, life's short, cherished experiences. You know, this is one thing I wish, you know, I mean, and that could be anything, right? It could be going to the park with your kid. It could be travel. It could be whatever. But what kind of cherished experiences do you have in your life? Like, those memories are so awesome, right? You know, you get together with someone you haven't seen in 30 years, and what do you guys talk about? You talk about different memories and experiences you had, but making sure you're creating experiences in your life that you can truly cherish. Because there's plenty of things you can do in your life that are not cherished experiences, right? They're poor experiences. They're bad choice experiences. They're experiences that gave you anxiety, right? And so just what kind of experiences are you creating in your life in order to shape the legacy you want to have? And then lastly is U, which stands for your health, right? Your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health. Like, where are you at health-wise, right? One thing I'm proud to say is in the last 2 weeks, and I'm going hardcore, I'm kind of an all-in, all-out guy, but I've lost 10 pounds, right? I wasn't feeling good about where my weight was, right? And it not necessarily that I was in poor physical health, okay? But remember, it's not just about physical health, it's about mental health. And the way I looked or felt about myself was affecting my mental health. So I chose to do something about it, right? But it's your health. All right, so now here's what I want to do. You're going to have to bear with me because I'm going to draw something on you on the whiteboard, and then we're going to get into live Q&A, right? And so hopefully the chat is going to get more engaged here in a second, because otherwise I'm going to have no questions to answer live. But let me draw something for you first, okay? And this is I call it my One Legacy success chart, okay? And let's just latch on to something here for a second. The word success. Can I tell you one of my pet peeves? And most of us are guilty of this. But we point out someone that's an executive or someone that has a successful business or someone that has a bunch of money, and we say, man, they're successful. Sorry, I mean, so I love Jesus, by the way. I think most of you know that. But for some reason, I don't have a conviction about cussing sometimes when I'm super passionate. And so let me say this. When you point out someone just because they've done amazing things in their career or they've made a lot of money, you call them successful, that's complete bullshit, right? Is that some of the most unsuccessful people I know are people that have a lot of money, all right? Like, money has very little to do with your legacy. Remember the A, able finances? And so what I'm going to draw for you is how I look at success, all right? And I've had to go through lots of humbling in my life and lots of challenge, just different things, sculpting times where the Lord has taken me into the art studio and kind of sculpted me. And by the way, whenever the Lord is taking you through challenging times or humbling you or whatever, look at that as a compliment. You need to be grateful for that because he's making you into a better version of yourself, all right? But let's just look at what my success chart looks like, okay? All right, so I'm going to draw a chart. And my writing sucks, by the way, and so does this pen. 10, 10, 10. That's called perfection. That's only Jesus. The only person that ever has achieved perfection is him. And so don't, if you ever tell me you're at a 10, then we should talk. Because I guarantee you're not at a 10 in any of these pillars. Okay. And then it goes, it goes 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, goes all the way down to 0. Okay. But then there's a 6 right here, right? So what is a 6 in? So you got A, B, C. What is that? A D, right? So you're passing, right? You're not failing. You're passing at a D, okay? And so you got a line right here, okay? And above the line, you're in the success chart. You're in the success area or territory. Below 6, you're in the failure territory, okay? And then down here, you have my L pillar, my E pillar, right? My G pillar, my A pillar, my C pillar, and my Y pillar. And your goal, here's the definition of a truly successful legacy, is that you can say, or others would say about you, that in general, not at every moment, not every day, not even necessarily every month, but you were able to keep all your pillars at 6 or above. Every one of your pillars. To me, that's true success. And by the way, they can ebb and flow. Like L, lasting faith. There might be one month, man, I'm just killing it. I'm doing amazing things. I'm at an 8. But then the next month, I don't know, I got one of my other pillars consumed me and it went down to a 6. But my goal is to keep each of these pillars at any given time at 6 or above. To me, that is the definition of how to create a successful legacy. Does that make sense? Like, so it's just like, there's these different bars, right? Where am I at? Where am I at? Oh no, man. Well, I happen to draw the E in the failure, right? That says exceptional relationships. In all reality, I'm probably failing there right now. I'm not at above a 6, right? What was the G? Genuine impact. I'm in success, okay? A, able finances, I'm in success. C, cherished experiences, I'm in success. Y is your health. I would say I'm a 6, okay? All right? So it's pretty obvious where I need to focus a little more, huh? To create the legacy I want. That's those exceptional relationships. Thanks for holding me accountable on that. All right, so now let's do this. We're gonna jump into some live Q&A. Please get active in the chat. Otherwise, this section of this live show is going to be a complete waste of time. And remember, hang till the end, and I'm going to give you a code to put in the chat, and I'm going to send you a free gift, all right? So give me some questions in the chat, anything, right? I mean, you want to know my shoe size? It's like 11 or 11 and a half, depending on the brand. But how much do I weigh? Right now, I weigh 210. No, that's not true. This morning, I weigh myself every morning. This morning, I was 206.4 at 3:30 a.m., okay? So that means I was like 217 2 weeks ago. But just this muffin top, man, was just driving me nuts, and it's shrinking right now, which I'm so thankful for because it was jacking up my mental health. Like I'd wear, so I have some thinner t-shirts, and I wouldn't want to wear them because like my muffin top would show, right? It really bugged me. All right, so let's talk about real estate, right? What are some questions in the chat?
Here's the first one, Joe.
Okay, if the 18 months comes and you need more time and you ask landowner for more time, do you pay more for the extra time? That's a good question, Joel. So usually on our deals, our average deal, okay, is we usually have the deal tied up for somewhere between 24 months and 36 months. So we always try to have the initial contract be much more time than what we actually expect it'll take, okay? Because there's nothing worse than the clock closing down on you, all right? But the other thing we usually will do is we'll build extensions into the agreement, all right? And so let's just say you're coming up against the clock and you're gonna exercise those extensions. Do I pay for those extensions? So I usually always put up money into escrow, but then it's the question of, is the money applied to the purchase price or not applied to the purchase price? And I can tell you I've done it all different ways. It's been all applied. It's been all not applied. Or it'll be like a portion's applied and a portion's not applied. Okay? Understand, the bigger the dollar amount for the extension, the more the reason it should be applied to the purchase price. Okay? The smaller the extension number, maybe we're open for it to be not applied. But here's a way to explain this to the landowner. Let's go back to the as is versus closing after entitlements. As is value of 500 grand, entitled value of 2.5 million. So we got to understand it's my time and energy and money that's making Billy's land be worth 2.5 million instead of 500 grand. But understand that without my time and energy and money, it's only worth 500 grand. So Billy, I'm already putting a ton of money into this thing, getting it entitled. I can't be penalized that it's taking more time because the jurisdiction is holding the ball the majority of the time, right? And so I can't all of a sudden pay more for the land, okay, because it's taking longer. Is that otherwise, I mean, how would I just pay you the 500 of what it's worth today? But I can't be penalized, okay? But think about it this way. He would say, well, you know, you have my land tied up and like I need to be paid for that time. But Billy, the thing is, Billy, your land's not worth the 2.5 million. I'm trying to make it worth the 2.5 million, okay? So you want me to pay you for time for me bringing value to your land, getting it approved for development. Do you see where that makes no sense? Why would I pay more for the time when it's the time that allows me to make your land worth what it is I'm paying you? How about in our partnership, okay, that you show me I don't know that I'd say this to a landowner, but at the end of the day, they need to appreciate that I'm the one it's my expertise and my time and my money that's getting them the huge payday or exit for their land. The last thing I should be doing is paying for that time when it's only because of me that you're getting the big payday for your land in the first place. Does that make sense? All right, cool. All right, what else?
Christopher over here on the right, the bottom.
Okay. What does that say? Does any
Entity.
have to establish first?
Does an entity have to be established first?
I don't know what you mean by entity. Meaning, do I need to go create a business before I get going in this business model? Maybe that's what you're asking. No. Will I connect you with someone that will set up an LLC for you for super cheap? Yes. Do I recommend you do everything through an LLC? Yes. But for you to get going, and you know, who was it? Was it no? Who was in that we celebrated? No, it was Helen. You know those action steps that Helen laid out? She did. She didn't need an LLC to go do any of that, right? She doesn't need an LLC to start dialing for dollars, right? Now, it might help because if you had a company name when you're talking to someone, but at the end of the day, I would go set up an entity when you're ready to. I don't think but I would definitely set up an entity before I ever signed a contract for a property because I wouldn't want to do it in my personal name. I'd want to do it in a company name. But no, you don't have to have an entity to get started. Technically, you don't have to have an entity at all, right? I would just recommend you do so for liability reasons, for write-off reasons, right? For taxes and whatnot, but you don't have to have an entity. Is AI incorporated in the business model? I mean, AI should be incorporated into any business model. I mean, if you're not embracing AI right now in any industry, in my opinion, you're falling behind. And so, you know, AI is changing every day, right? AI is evolving right before our eyes, right? A lot of the reason why our stock market's doing so well is because of AI. But so yes, like our company, we're embracing AI more and more every day, figuring out ways to implement it, build bots, do research, right? All different types of things. So do you need AI to execute the business model? Absolutely not. Do I suggest everybody on this planet embrace AI so you can move faster? Absolutely. And quite frankly, a lot of times more accurately, okay? Because AI's research actually might be better than your own, right? So Is AI needed? No. Do I suggest you embrace AI? Yes. What?
We have a lot of questions. We try to get to them.
Oh, it's good.
There's a lot of questions.
You guys all came alive? Like, they told me there's all kinds of questions. Like, I love it. So I guess it's not all bots here today. So you guys are going to have to filter through the questions somehow and tell me the ones you want me to answer.
Yeah, Solomon here has bought the book and he read the book, so if we can get to one of his questions, that'll be good.
Okay.
You can see him down here on Facebook.
Yeah. What is it? What's it? Just give me one of the questions.
Let's go over here. Buyers and connections. Where are the buyers usually found through your connections or large firms?
Okay. So I'm just going to answer it. This is someone that I guess read my book recently. Is that right? And so you asked, where do you find the buyers? This is such a common question. And so, yes, do I have these national relationships across the country with all these public companies? Yeah, I do. But guess what? They don't care about me. Okay. You know what they care about? We have hats in here we call deal flow. You know why these guys answer my phone call? Because I'm deal flow for them. Actually, I can't say the builder's name, but one of the largest in the country, just the other day, we're working on a deal, and I said, I owe you. Because we're working out kind of a negotiation. He said, you don't owe me nothing, man. He said, you're deal flow, right? So just know, they don't care if the deal flow is from you or from me. It's deal flow. But how do you find them? Not hard. Actually, Helen was just talking about, she found her buyer list, target list, through ChatGPT. Type in the county or the city, the jurisdiction, and say, well, who builds in this? Who's building here, right? Who's pulling permits here? Like, not hard. Do a Google search. We have building our target buyer list is one of the easiest things we do. And by the way, we don't list any of our properties with real estate agents. Some of our students use agents to sell their deals. We don't, because it's easy to find these builders, right? And I can tell you this, let's go back to the 500 lot example. Let's say you have a 500 lot example. I wouldn't go after a builder that's building 10 homes a year. Okay, it's not a good match. So you got to make sure you're going after the builders that actually have the horsepower to take down the project. But it's just not, it's pretty easy to build a builder list, right? Like I said, use AI, Gemini, ChatGPT, whatever. Use Google. But that's one of the easiest things to do is build out a target list for buyers. All right, cool. What's another one? Okay. Do I have to pay for the entitlement process or no? Common excuse of why people don't like new things because they have to get uncomfortable in order to execute on new things. So the reason most people don't jump off the edge and just go for it is really fear, right? People are fearful of the unknown. But the most successful people I know are people that are willing to get uncomfortable, okay? And common, very common, all the time, okay? All right, because it's hard to level up if you're not willing to get uncomfortable. But the people that aren't willing to, using the common excuse is capital, okay? Well, I don't have the capital, right? So we created a spreadsheet recently. It was like my last 10 closings. And the profit was like 2.7 million, somewhere around there. And I think the average capital per deal was like, I don't remember what it was. Do you remember what it was? 500 grand? Okay. So it was like 500 grand. So do you have to cash flow that 500 grand? And that's earnest money to the seller plus entitlement costs. You don't need the 500 grand. So let's let that go. You do not need the 500 grand. Let me explain numerous reasons why. One of my teammates that's been with the company for 20 years, he reminded me of this the other day. His name's David. And David said, you know, Cody, I remember back in the day when we didn't have a ton of capital. You always told us, go find the deals and I'll get the capital. And the reason I was always so confident that I could get the capital is because capital's attracted to good deals, okay? Capital wants to be involved in good deals. So you go find a good deal. It shouldn't be overly difficult to find the capital. It could be friends and family capital. It could be investor capital. It could be, you know what? Some of our students, and I've done it before too, is actually the buyer, whoever you're going to sell the deal to, they'll put up the capital, okay? Because you control the deal, right? Your deal flow, and like DCD, dirt controls deals, you control the dirt. And so a lot of times, you can get them to put up the capital so that you don't need to. But just to crush that excuse, if you're a VestRight Dirt Dog Pack member, you're a member of our VestRight Education Company, you can partner with me or with Allied Development, and we'll put up all the capital. You go find a good deal, and we have numerous deals going on right now with pack members, is that, and we're putting up all the capital. They brought in the lead, someone that's interested in selling. We negotiated the deal. We entitle the deal, we sell the deal, and we capitalize the deal, all right? And then we cut them in on the profits for being the one, they didn't even control it. They just got the landowner raise their hand, they're interested in selling. And then we cut them in on the profit, right? And I, like, recently I wrote a check for like, what was it, like $348,000 or something. Another one I wrote was like $610,000. And then we got numerous more we're going to be writing this year. So, all right, let's keep going.
Is this something we can talk about here on Facebook?
It says, who submits the EMD on partnership deals I bring? So Lee, if you are a VestRight PAC member, right, you're an active member at VestRight, you can partner with us, and we would put up all the earnest money. We'll put up all the earnest money and all the capital required to entitle the deal. So you don't need to stroke any checks. We will write all the checks. All right. What else?
Here, what are your concerns around?
What are your concerns around long-term visibility of this model, given the unprecedented attention and participation in it? So, all right. Good question. If you don't believe there's a housing shortage, and not only a housing shortage, but it's a crisis, and I would say it's one of the #1 problems in our country today. If you don't believe that's true, you shouldn't do my model. If you believe it is true, then you should be chomping at the bit to do my model. Because one of our sayings around here is we're the housing shortage solution. We are bringing inventory to our country. We are helping solve the problem. So if you agree, and I've seen stats anywhere from what lowest I've ever seen is $1.5 million to recently I saw one at like 8 million. But I think the housing shortage is somewhere between 3 and 4 million. So the demand is there, the need is there, right? And you know how a lot of times, you know what's really fun? Like talk about genuine impact. You know what's really fun? Is to have tremendous impact and make some good money at the same time. And you know how you can do that? By helping solve a problem, right? If you help solve a problem, you can have amazing impact and make great paydays all along the way. And so, you know, like that, you know, what I say, my average last 10 deals was like 2.7 million in profit. The reason that's possible is because we help solve a problem. We bring inventory to our country. And so, you know, where do I see this in the long term? I think we have a great run ahead of us, years and years and years and years. Right now, I would say, if I was to guess, I think 2026 is the bottom of the downturn that started mid-22. That's what it feels like to me, based upon just my interactions in the market, is I think 26 is the bottom. And so I think prime time is getting in right now. Because by the time these deals are ready, okay, the market will have recovered and we'll be doing good again. So I love the model for that. Do I love the Airbnb model? No. Do I love the wholesaling model? No. Do I think models like those are going to continue to have more and more governmental pressure. Yes. I've never heard the country say they don't want me to bring more inventory to help solve the housing shortage. If anything, they support my model. All right, cool. What else?
One last question.
We're going to do one more question. Okay. And by the way, thanks for engaging in the chat, right? Thanks for proving to me you weren't bots. So I love an active chat. I love there's lots of questions. Shows me people are interested. Okay, what is it? Where do you skip trace leads and make calls? Do you use any platforms? Oh man, I'd be lying if I said I knew. Our team does all that. Let's do a different question, but we have skip tracing softwares we use. But for our cold calling, we have VAs, virtual assistants. So international people, they're not with an agency that make calls, or no, they are with an agency, but VAs that do cold calling for us.
Someone asked, how do we learn your model?
Oh, how do you learn my model? I'm not doing these lives to pitch people. I'm not, right? I'm doing these lives to have impact. Some of you might not like what I'm about to say. But someone asked me the other day, well, numerous people have asked me over the last year, is what's my goal with social media? I just started doing these lives like a month ago. What's my goal with these lives? What's my goal with all this content? And if you don't like me for what I'm about to say, that's okay, right? But my ultimate goal is to plant seeds. Did you notice how I talked about Jesus numerous times? Did you notice how faith is my first pillar, lasting faith? Is that I believe that some people are seed planters and others are harvesters. See, I'm born again. I believe in the Lord. I've been saved. And some people help people get to that save point, and I call them harvesters, where I'm more of a seed planter. I just want to plant the seed, maybe get your brain start thinking. And so that's actually, if you want to know the truth, one of my number one goals related to me having genuine impact, okay, is having impact for the kingdom, right? And so I'm not here to pitch you, right? But how do you learn more about my LDP model, which stands for land with development potential, is simply do this. Put in the chat right now, LDP, or go to my social media and DM me, LDP, and we'll send you some free training. And you're going to learn a whole lot more about my LDP model and exactly how it works. And I'm comfortable saying, and please don't hear this as ego, like the Lord has humbled me and put me on my knees so many times. But by the way, I don't think we ever arrive in humility. There's always another level of humility. But, excuse me, I just lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Faith and whatever and LDP. Shoot, I lost my train of thought. Jeez, that's not good. Well, at least you know we're live. Okay, anything else we want to hit? Do you just want me to, we're good? All right. Everybody, thanks for joining. Let's do this. If you got any value out of this, any value at all, give me a 1 in the chat. Just give me a 1 in the chat, okay? And I just remember what I was going to say. Learning my LDP model. Guys out there teaching wholesaling, there's 10 of them on every street corner. Guys out there teaching multifamily syndicating, there's a gazillion of them, right? What there isn't a lot of, and it's the reason I call it my LDP model, is because I'm one of the only ones I know of out there actually teaching it. There's guys that have attempted to teach it, but it's at like a minute level, okay? And so I've been humbled a ton is what I was talking about. I don't think you ever arrive with humility, but I'm saying all that before what I'm about to say could be perceived as an ego statement. And I want you to know it's not based on ego. But I'm comfortable saying I am the authority and I am an expert when it comes to land with development potential and entitlement. So anyways, if you want to learn more from me in the model, I'm not pitching you, do it if you want. Put LDP in the chat or DM me on social. With that said, I said I'd give you a free gift. So, you know, I said like I put in 500 and I made 2.7 or whatever. I want you to better understand how that math works. How's that actually possible? And how does he actually do that in 18 months, right? Like, because you can't show me another business model out there in real estate where you can do that without no debt, without owning the land, controlling it, okay? And you can't show it to me, okay? Here's what you do. Put CALC, C-A-L-C, in the chat, CALC, and I'm going to send you a free calculator that's going to show you exactly how these deals work, the math. And there's a video that goes along with that where I show you how to use the calculator. So if you want to learn more about LDP, or you just want a free gift, because I promised you I'd give you one, is type CALC in the chat, and my team will send you our free calculator, all right? And I think that we call it like the profit projector calculator or something. I don't even remember what the calculator is called, but put CALC in the chat, and I'll send you that free calculator. With that said, I just knocked out my 4th live ever, not 5, 4. My 4th live ever. And I just appreciate y'all being here. And thanks again for engaging in the chat there at the end and giving us lots of questions to be able to answer. All right, y'all, I'll see you next week, same day, same time. All right, take care.